Hello, and here we go again with another great episode of the crossover with Joe Arlauckas. And although I always love talking to the players, I'd definitely be lying if I didn't say some of my favorite episodes are with the coaches. And that's what I have the pleasure of doing today. Welcome to our show. A coach that's been successful no matter where he's gone. And now he's back with the team that he won the EuroLeague in 2013 and has them in a playoff position this year. Georgios Bartzokas, my man, welcome to the crossover. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much.
Of course, we've been trying to do this for like 4 months now, man. You're harder to get than the president, you know?
No, I'm sorry, but first of all, I'm kind of a little bit low profile, but the schedule is really tough.
Yeah. You told me when you guys played here, you said, I'm not coaching through this. I'm not the kind of guy to talk for like 3 hours.
No, the meeting is really great on this. That's why I told you.
And you remember what I told you? I said, that's good. I only get paid by the podcast. I don't get paid for time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So how's everything with you? Everything going good?
Everything goes good, yes. So far.
Good. So far. That's always the question.
Yes.
So, the whole issue of the crossover, it's a little bit of story about your life. And when did you start playing basketball? Because you're right around my age. You're a month older than I am. I saw when I did our research, and you were there during like the most important parts of Greek basketball.
Yeah, I started playing like in the age of 12 years old, probably 1977. I started basketball, and I had not a huge career, I had a lot of injuries with my knees, and I stopped playing basketball in the age of 27. So my career in basketball was only in Marousi as a player.
Right.
Then I started being coach in the, probably from small divisions in Greece, a lot of years as a head coach. Then I became assistant coach of Panionios in Marousi. Marousi was one of the best teams in the domestic league, in Greek league. I remember we finished second and we played the final against Panionios. And then I started my career as a head coach in different teams.
How difficult was it for you as a player, with a player's mentality, to go through, because you had some severe knee injuries, I believe, right?
Yes.
And back then in our day, a knee injury was like, it's not the same as it is today. A player injures his knee today, and in 7 months he's usually back playing again at full strength. When we were playing at that age, the medical, it wasn't as advanced, I guess. And
Exactly.
knee injuries, the minute you had a knee injury, you were like you're on the blacklist for a lot of coaches and teams.
Yes, correct. Now everything looks much easier for the players, although that the schedule is really tougher. It's we're talking about a lot of games, close to 80, 85 games per season, and we didn't have this tough schedule. But as you said, one serious injury on your knee was kind of not the end of your career, but you can say that you fall one level down,
Exactly.
like this. And for your mentality as an athlete, as a player, a basketball player, is tough to overcome this and to get back and to win the trust of your coach, of your teammates, of the media, of everybody. So when I started having problems with my knees, I started thinking what I can do to stay in the sport that I really love, like basketball. And the only thing that I decided to do is being a coach.
Mm-hmm. Because you had various knee issues. It just wasn't one, right? Did you tore both ACLs, right?
Yes. Both.
But as I don't mean to laugh, but it's you see so many players that go through their careers, and some of them are just injury prone, and it just seems to happen. It doesn't matter what they do, or they just seem to get hurt. Did you feel like that was you? Did you feel like, man, this is just bad luck? This is going to be the rest of my career, and I need to move on?
Um, I was in a kind of depression, because like everybody in this position, uh, I was feeling really, really bad. Whenever you are out, you were a player, and whenever you are in an injury list, watching your teammates playing basketball, it's really sad, So I start thinking that probably my career is going to finish early. I know it's not easy, this, and I spoke with a lot of people with the same, problems, and everybody was feeling the same. It's not easy to overcome this.
Right. At what point as a player, like you mentioned that you started to think about other things, another future, but you wanted to stay in the game. Like, to me, when I played back in college, if I would have never made it to the pros, I studied business management, but I never actually thought about being a coach. It never went through my mind. So was there a transition from the time you got hurt to where you started to study the game more, and you looked at the game in a different way?
Listen, since I was 20 years old, I started being coach. Also, I was a player, of course, but I started being in a mini basketball. We're talking about age like 10 years old kids. And, always I had this approach about basketball. I was always thinking from coach's perspective,
Right.
Maybe it was by luck. Maybe I built up this perspective because I started thinking that I will not have so bright future as a player. And probably it was this. I don't remember because there are a lot of years ago, but this transition, as you said, is a really difficult and painful process, that the thing that you love, because playing basketball is always the best, is much better than coach a basketball team. Playing basketball is fantastic, it's great, you feel like a kid, even if you are a professional. And, I started thinking what I can do to stay in the sport that I love, and probably I have the ability maybe to do something. And I started thinking as a coach,
What I always think the one thing that I've always said to myself, because I told you I studied business management, I barely graduated from university. I was one of those students. I was more of a student. I was more of an athlete than a student, one of those guys. Like, if you look back now from the time that you started to play, from the time you injured your knee, and now you're coaching, it's been your entire life. What do you think you would be doing today if it wasn't for coaching?
Listen, I've been in the University of Athens. I studied politics, but to be honest, it was kind. I'm not good on this at all, So I didn't graduate. I don't have the diploma. I stopped because I was focused just on basketball. Start playing first and then coaching. So I don't know exactly what I could do if I wasn't involved with basketball. I don't have an answer, honestly.
That's what I always say to people also. It's the same answer. I have no idea, because I have no idea where I would have been without some sort of sport in my life anyways. And when you were in Marussia, that was your first assistant coaching job. That's where you played.
Yes.
Yes,
I was. Yes.
That's where you started working with Billy, Vasilis, Spanoulis, Kill Bill. There's so many different names for him.
Yes.
What was he like when he was younger? When he was at that? I mean, at that age, what was he like? 16, right? He was.
No, he came in Marussia, I think, in the age of 19, if I was right. Yes, from Larissa, from his team, Panionios Larissas, and after 2-3 years, I was assistant coach with Marousi of Panionios. I think 1 year we played this FIBA competition final with Vasilis. I was fourth assistant in Marousi,
I didn't know they had that many assistants in Greece.
Yeah,
By the way.
we had because Panionios was also always a very organized and in Marousi he brought his professionalism and the way of thinking, the way of how to be a champ, and I was the guy to do the tough things, a lot of video. From video recording this, not now with with all the programs that you have through internet, without synergy and without all of this great stuff that you have now. And I was a guy who was watching all day games and trying to transfer the information to the first assistant coach and to Panionios. This was my job.
I talked to Xavi Pascual a couple of years ago, and he made me open my eyes to something that I never realized. He told me, he's like, some assistant coaches just want to be assistant coaches. They don't want the job of, and to me, like, that never registered in my mind as an ex-player. Like, if I came in fourth place, I wanted to come in third place. If I came in third place, I wanted to come in second place. And during those times when and I can only imagine what it was like to do the VHS videos and do because now it's so easy for some of these people that know technology. During those times where you're like, man, I need to be the boss. This is my goal is to be the head coach, or were you content on being an assistant coach at that time?
I was head coach before in a small division teams in Greece. So, in this kind of teams, you are not only the head coach, you are the assistant also, you are the team manager, you are the guy who is bringing the balls in the practice. This is the situation. And I was also the guy who was trying to find some sponsors, I was doing everything. And not only me, all the coaches in this level are doing this. So I can say that it was a great school for me, doing this. I was a little bit tired doing this, doing all the things and being emotional, with the result finally, because I had to do everything.
Yeah.
So I started when I had this offer from Coach Giannakis. I started thinking, okay, let's. I was also a Marousi player in the past, so it was a good opportunity for me to start being assistant coach. And also, what I really believe is that if you do the job of the assistant coach, of the fourth coach, the third, the second, the head coach, basketball from all the. Exactly. How can I say? Yeah, you have the whole image of this job, and then I can appreciate the job that my assistant coaches are doing. It's and I can understand what kind of job they really do. I really believe that. I wasn't, having Coach Giannakis as a head coach. It's just I need to have my ears open, and to do whatever I could, just for the team to succeed. But I couldn't think about the future. Just think that after my 3 years of being assistant coach in Marousi, when I had my first offer as head coach in Larissa, I didn't want to get that job. I prefer to stay as an assistant coach in Marousi, although that opportunity that I had in Larissa probably opened my future, Right. But in the beginning, I didn't want to leave Marousi. I was okay. I was feeling great with this job, with this opportunity. I did it not with so much. How can I say? My desire wasn't to be a head coach in another city of Greece. To move on, from my house, from my family, and start being head coach somewhere else. But of course, it was a great, finally, decision.
When you grab a team for the first time and you've been through the whole process of being the fourth assistant, the third assistant, and moving up, you feel it's as you said, the experience of you learning. It's like what I was talking to one of the producers the other day at IMG, and I was like, someday I just want to sit in the truck and learn what everybody else does, because I've never had that opportunity to learn the inside parts and see what the people are doing to me. And And when you see a coach like, I mean, I think the two guys that come to my mind, Pablo Lasso and Saras Jasikeviches, they jumped right into it. Is that a disadvantage for them because they don't understand the process of everything that comes before?
I cannot say that, Joe. I think it depends on the person. You know, it's how much respectful you are for your colleagues. You know, and then to try to be in their position and to understand what they do and through what difficult things they pass. You know, it's Pablo was a player in Real Madrid, and Saras was something that everybody knows. You know, as a player. So for them, it was easier to make the transition as a head coach in the highest level. You understand what I mean? First of all, because they play in this level and they knew, and of course, because of the reputation that they have, it was easier for them to get a very good job.
Right.
I wasn't in this position, and so I had to pass through a process of a lot of years growing up as a professional in this job. You know.
I feel like players that go right into coaching, sometimes they're learning as they start. So maybe even the assistant coaches are teaching them.
Yes, of course.
Exactly how the game is.
I'm not telling this about Pablo or Saras, but maybe in the beginning of your career, it's very good to have one very experienced assistant, one very experienced general manager to help you in your first seasons. You know.
What do you think was when was your biggest break? Was it taking that head coaching job, leaving Marusi? Was that your biggest break, or was that like your first big opportunity?
Yes, probably yes. This job in Larissa was a great opportunity because I became head coach in the first division of Greece in a team that we played in European competition, a playoff team. In probably the years that the domestic league was much better than now, you know, because of the crisis, because of the, you know, every league right now looks like, I cannot say worst, but in another level, because in Greece, for example, in the past 12, 14 years ago, there will be 12, 14 very strong teams, you know, and to achieve the playoffs was really tough. It was really difficult. Now it's not like this. There are teams that, I don't have to say that because...
it's the same. I think it's the same all over Europe now, because even in Spain, you know, when I was around and when I played, it was you just felt like the league was so much more competitive on a weekly basis than it
You
is
think
now.
so about the Spanish league? You know, from my experience in Barcelona, it was really tough. You know, you could lose everywhere. You know, it's, but in other leagues like Italian, like Greek league, even like VTB now, you know, the bottom teams are not so strong.
Yeah, and sometimes for a bigger team that's difficult too, because it's more difficult to get motivated to play some games like that.
This is a nightmare for all the coaches. Believe me, I'm talking with all the EuroLeague coaches. The Sunday game in the domestic league with a small team is really like a nightmare. How you can motivate your players, how they can play with speed, with desire. You know, they are walking. You know, the thing is that probably in the Spanish league, if you are like this, you can lose the game. In Greek league, it's really difficult to lose, even if you are without motivation, without energy. You know.
What did it feel like for you to be named coach of the Greek basketball coach of the year after everything that you've gone through, as far as your injuries and kind of climbing up that mountain? Is that like a special reward for a coach as it would be for a player?
To be honest, not for me. It wasn't like this. This year, I think, with Marusi as a head coach, we had an excellent season in EuroLeague with a team with 1.2 million budget. You know, 1.2, maybe the smaller budget in EuroLeague history, and we achieved the playoffs. We had qualification round, and we beat Thessaloniki and Alba Berlin, and then we play in the group, and then we qualified in the top 16. I mean, I'm talking about great achievement for our team, and we had the opportunity to go even to the playoffs. We beat Panathinaikos, who was Partizan and Maccabi in the top 16. Panathinaikos was European champion the previous year. Yeah. So, and then we end up in the domestic league third after Olympiacos Panathinaikos, which was like to be a champion. The same time, yes. So the same time that we play so many games in EuroLeague, we competed also in the domestic league. We end up third. It was really a great season for us.
Then there were some financial issues that forced you to leave.
Was that generally for the club? No, not only for me. Yes.
Yeah, but was that something that were you okay with that exit, or were you disappointed because you were kind of building?
No, it wasn't a personal disappointment about my job or my money or about my future. It was basically for our team because I had always I have feelings for this team. I was a player since I was a kid, and through this situation, Marousi never been in the same level again. So it wasn't easy, not for my future. Somehow I believe with this good season that we had that I could have another good opportunity, and it was Panionios after. One very traditional, Greek team, which was in a bad situation when I went, I think in November. But after 1 year, we end up also third in the same, like Marousi, like after Olympiacos Panathinaikos was, we end up in a really good spot.
Yeah, and you had that team qualify for the EuroLeague also. Was it the second year that you guys qualified for EuroLeague?
No, it was the second year. The first year we didn't qualify even in the playoffs. We just saved the category. We didn't fell down. But the second year we finished third, and we won the EuroLeague spot. Of course, we didn't play never in EuroLeague because EuroLeague is giving only 2 tickets in the domestic league, but it is what it is. Yes.
So when you go to Olympiacos your first time, I've always been. This is like to me the most interesting part of this whole story is you get there as, of course, one of the most legendary coaches of all time, and Dusan. He rest in peace, and with always one of my favorite guys, and it was just such a. Other than being a great coach, it was just.
I don't remember you were with him, no, eh?
No. I never got the. Listen, I played with Selko. That was enough. I didn't need another one like him.
Correct.
With one of those guys is enough for me. But they say, and not only do we say this, but it's true that one of the hardest things to do in EuroLeague is to be back-to-back champions, to win 2 years in a row. And this team did it in 2012 with Dusan. And to me, it's like it's always hard to go back to back, even if you have the same coach. But the next year, a new coach comes in, which is you, and you get what I guess I guess you could say the remains of the year before, because the normal thing for teams to do is like take it, like we won it, let's relax and move on.
Always. That's why it's so rare, to see not only in basketball, in football also. It's
everywhere.
Yes, it's really rare. I don't know what is exactly the reason. The reason I thought a lot of times, what is the reason that a very strong European team who wins the championship in Europe, why they don't repeat it? Probably one is the motivation. You work like to your limits to achieve the top, the title. Maybe then all the players, they want a little bit more piece of cake. And I'm not talking only about money, of course, because wherever you are a European champion, you must have better contract, but also it's the piece of cake of the play of the game. It's, you need some more shots, some more responsibility, and it's really difficult to repeat it. That's why it's really rare in the history.
I think the format also obviously makes it difficult because it's a Final Four.
Yes.
Maybe if it was a 5 or 7 game playoff, you'd see more repeat teams. But the fact that, and when I thought about this, my first initial reaction when I researched this was it would be more difficult for a team to repeat having a new coach. But then when you really think about it deeply, you say maybe that's even easier because you're putting in new philosophies, you're motivating the team a different way. I don't know. I mean, for you, what were your feelings going in because as a player, I would be like, man, nobody ever repeats. And I'm going to sign for Olympiacos now that just won the championship last year. Maybe that's not such a good thing.
Yeah. Listen, when I had the offer from Olympiacos owners about this job, I was really happy. Maybe one of the happiest moments of my life because I cannot hide it. I'm an Olympiacos fan since I was a kid.
That was going to be one of my questions to you coming up. I was like,
so in Greece, everybody knows that. I grew up in the football and basketball game of Olympiacos, being a fan of the club. So then when I had this opportunity for this job, I couldn't deny it. It's that simple. One of the happiest days of my life was when I signed with Olympiacos the contract.
So the doing this again the second time, you said you were an Olympiacos fan your whole life, so it felt good to be there. But trying to repeat again is a difficult thing, especially in a new coach, new system.
I try to keep a lot of things that Dusan Ivkovic did in the past, even some offensive plays. Of course, my philosophy was completely different, Also, the roster, I changed a lot of the small things. I mean, if I remember well, 3 or 4 new players that we signed this year. And I cannot hide it. It was a really difficult process and really painful, losing games. Always I was the guy that everybody saw that this is the guy who was responsible for every loss,
Right.
But also, Olympiacos in the previous season had a tough season in EuroLeague, It wasn't easy. But through this process, through this painful process, we develop our game, we grow up as a team, and we were ready finally to the Final Four to compete against the best teams in Europe. It wasn't easy, of course.
Were there times when people were pointing the finger at you where you were thinking, man, I'd like to be the 4th assistant coach again?
No, you never. It's just, you go to the sea and you have to swim. There is no other way.
I look at, obviously, we know you coached, with Vasilis, you coached Panionios. Your EuroLeague record was 44-18 during that time, which is 70% winning percentage, which is extremely impressive. Yet when you coach a team like Olympiacos, Panionios, Real Madrid, you were criticized more for the domestic part of the championship.
Correct.
Because you weren't doing as well as. How do you win the fans? I mean, if you do well in EuroLeague, you have to do well in another one. If you do well in the Greek championship and you don't do well in the EuroLeague, how do you make people happy?
When you are in Olympiacos, you have to win every game. You don't have right to lose. It's that simple. But I believe in all the big clubs in Europe, this is the situation. You cannot deny it. It's if you want to be a coach in these kind of teams, a lot of people will be critical to you in everything, and it's normal. Especially the Mediterraneans, the guys in the South Europe, they cannot accept, losing. It's right. That simple. Right. There are a lot of people in Greece that they say that you love more the win than your team, than your club.
Yeah.
And it's true, more or less, even if you have, let's say, budget 4th or 5th time less than the most expensive clubs in Europe, everybody is demanding about, to win them, to beat them. So it is what it is, you accept it or no.
It's so difficult in Greece because one of the most beautiful things that when I played against Greek teams in Greece, or when I did play in Greece with Adidas and the most beautiful thing is the passion that the Greek fans have, but it's also the worst thing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Because it's such an extreme.
Yes, for the foreigners, it's not easy to understand that, but for us that we grow up in this situation, it's something normal. That's why sometimes I believe that the Greek coaches are ready to, if they coach in here, they can coach everywhere because the pressure is really high. For example, let me tell you something. You were a player in Real Madrid, and you had a great team, with Spanoulis. I remember the final against Olympiacos. You remember, of course.
Of course, yeah.
Let's say for Olympiacos, losing the last game of the European competition was a real nightmare. Even if you had an excellent season, you qualified to the Final Four, you play the final, and then you lose from a very strong team like Real Madrid those years. So nobody is going to give you a credit, after that.
Yeah.
We just lost.
The same thing is this. It's the same thing here in Real Madrid, but it's not as passionate. It's not as strong. I mean, the media, the fans, everything, but it's like a couple levels below what it is once you get to Greece.
Yes.
And it's a whole different thing, which again, I don't think it's bad. I think it's beautiful.
I don't know. It's not a secret, but when you lose a derby in Greece, you have to hide. You cannot go out to the supermarket for a couple of days or to go out, because everybody will start talking to you. So that's why when I was in Russia, nobody knew me. When I was going to a shopping mall or something like this, for me it was fantastic. Nobody knew that who I was, and nobody was telling anything.
It's beautiful, isn't that beautiful? But
yes, this is a beautiful part of this job.
You can do anything you want, and I can remember after losing games against Barcelona, like in the finals or whatever. Man, it wasn't that. The fans weren't as bad here as they would have been in Greece, but it's like I didn't want to see anybody either. It didn't matter. So I didn't want anybody to even say anything nice to me or mean to me. I didn't care.
Exactly.
I didn't leave the house.
Exactly. Yes.
When you left Olympia, in my research, it says that we do a couple of different guys do our research for us.
Yes.
I do my part, and it says that after an opening day derby defeat to Panionios at the start of the 2014-15 season, you left your post. What happened? I know that's not just because you lost to Panionios you left. There's more than that.
Yes. No. Basically, it was because of this. We lost also the domestic league the previous season with me as a coach, and probably the opening game was with Panathinaikos in the cup, in a game away. So we lost with buzzer beater 1 point, and the fans were there in our gym waiting for us when we came back from Panathinaikos home court, and it was more than passionate. It was like they wanted to push things to me to give up. How can I say
they wanted to quit.
Yeah, to quit, exactly.
Yeah.
So when I saw these kind of feelings to the crowd, these persons that they externalize with this bad way their feelings, I decided by myself to leave. It was. I said that's enough for me. I had to stop it. Although that it wasn't easy.
Does that? In any way, did that change your attitude towards the club? Like you said, you grew up loving Olympiacos in the club. Did it?
No. That never changes. I don't know for you, for the American guys, but in Greece we say that you cannot change ever team, you know.
Same with me.
You start being Olympiacos fan, you will die Olympiacos fan. You cannot be after a few years some other team's fan.
When you were younger and you were an Olympiacos fan, were you like one of those? Were you one of those, the crazy guys going nuts and nuts?
No, I never been, to be honest. I was always, you know, positive and supportive to any coach that we had in the football team, to any player, you know. Of course, there were players that I liked more, but I wasn't that kind of guy, you know, cursing to the coach, to the players, when we were losing game. I wasn't that guy.
I think when you play the game, you have more of a respect for everybody who's involved in it, you know, than when you don't play it. But when you left there, you took a year off, and I'm always so interested in what coaches do, because I've seen, like, you know, Selko has taken, you know, the year off. Other coaches have taken that sabbatical for a year. What was your year for? Was it just to get away? Was it to become better, learn?
I will tell you. First of all, it's completely different situation from for example, what Zeliko did. Zeliko decided to be out of the sport for 1 year and to do whatever he wanted to do. I didn't decide. I mean, I decided, but fans forced me to decide that.
Right.
So I lost my job, you know, early in the season. For me, it was a really difficult and painful situation. All those months, I had just one offer after 2-3 months from a Turkish team, but I didn't get it. So I start, you know, being involved with all the things of basketball, you know, watching games, basically NBA that I love more, European basketball, European leagues. I had the chance to visit the Copa del Rey in Gran Canaria, in Las Palmas, you know, just things like this. Basketball, but not from outside, you know, watching a lot, learning a lot, things like this. Talking with a lot of people of basketball. This was my job. This was my daily process you know, all those months.
Was it with an intention to come back, or was it with an intention to, like, see if this is really what I want to do anymore after, like, a bad experience?
For 1-2 months, it was the second. That's what you said. Is this job for me? You know, is it normal to have this in your life? You know, this is the question mark always. You know, as we said with our assistant coaches here, it's this job. When you are out, you want so much deadly to go in, to get in, and when you are in, you start thinking that, you know, I'm fed up. You know, it's enough for me. I want to go out. Right. But you know, after 10, 15, 20 days of vacations, it's again is the same. You know, the adrenaline that you need, that you learn to live with, is always this. So for 1-2 months, I had this perspective that, you know, do I deserve to live these kind of things? But of course, then I decided that I have to continue.
It amazes me, because I always talk about this with players also, and coaches have the same thing. It amazes me, like 2 years before that, you're hoisting up a EuroLeague championship trophy and hugging your players, and like you've achieved the maximum that you could ever believe that you could achieve as a coach, and then just 2 years later, you're thinking about, like, never going back again. How is the ups and downs of being an athlete or a coach in a sport are incredibly extreme, because your highest level and your lowest level are the best and the worst, you know?
I don't have to add anything. You just said it as it is. You know, I completely agree. It's like all the guys that they are working this level are dealing with some extreme feelings. You know, high and low, maybe in the same week sometimes, not in 2 years. So you need to be ready. So I think that we learn to live with those kind of feelings, and then it's really difficult for us to live without them. You know, I really believe that stopping being a basketball coach, how can I live without those feelings?
So do you feel like you needed, because a player really can't do that, because the players, they're playing career is much shorter. A player just can't say, "Hey, I'm going to take a year off and walk away."
Yes.
During that year, did you feel like more of a passion for the game, even though you hit rock bottom, let's say, as a coach? Did you feel like you came back with more energy, with more knowledge, with more passion?
Yes, after 2-3 months, you start thinking positive and start, think that you need to be part of basketball again. So you have a desire, you have a motivation to prove again that you are a good coach or you're a good player or whatever, And I just needed a good opportunity.
And Lokomotiv was that opportunity.
Yes,
But Coach, I think I don't know you well enough, but I know that you're very Greek.
Yes.
And this was going to be your first move outside
Exactly.
of a beautiful country, and you're going to Russia.
And the south of Russia, Krasnodar. Krasnodar was a really better place than what I believed before. It's the weather is completely better than Moscow, for example, on North Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans, the club was really supportive, warm audience comparing to all the other Russian teams, And of course, we had a really good team. It was a fantastic year.
That year was incredible for you guys. I thought that was with the playoff win over Barcelona and going to the Final Four, and I still remember that Final Four game. I felt the whole time you guys won that game.
Yeah, it was I have great memories from this season. Basically, we had a bunch of fantastic players, persons, and also we had the luck that nobody had a serious injury, because always important to have luck in this part of basketball, about health. And we end up, playing third in EuroLeague. We end up playing semi-final in the Final Four. For Lokomotiv, was such a huge achievement, accomplishment, how can I say? And also the basketball that we played, it was really, in my opinion, attractive. It was a basketball without a classic center, but with a lot of, mobile forwards and fantastic guards, decision makers. We had a really good team,
In a situation like that, do you, as a coach, do you maintain your philosophy as a basketball coach, or do you have to change with the team that you have? Do you have to adjust certain things? Like you said, you didn't play with the classic big men. You opened up the floor more. Did you have to change anything about your philosophy?
I changed, yes, a few things, but basically it's what kind of group of players you have, what the characteristics of the players that you have. So we had Anthony Randolph, we have Victor Claver, we have Chris Singleton. Of course, I brought those guys. And I realized that, having so talented players that they have the size and they have the quality to play face to the basket or sometimes back to the basket, and they can switch on defense or they can run the court really fast, might be a weapon, and not a weakness. So, so we work, but we had to be in the same page, everybody, and thank God we had Malcolm Delaney and Dondai Draper, the guards and the decision makers that they really believe in this prospect, in this project, excuse me, and they follow, we were in the same page, everybody, and that's why finally we succeed.
You as a coach, you kind of fly under the radar, to say the least. You're there all the time. Every team that you've coached, even like lower teams with less budgets, you've always even achieved the EuroLeague or whatever. Do you consider yourself an easy coach? Do you consider yourself a player's coach? Are you more difficult on guys? I see you in games, and sometimes you get angry in games, but you're normally pretty calm and cool.
I can say that I don't want to be to overcoach. This is my philosophy. I really love to see the players inside the court to express their talent. Of course, to have specific principles, rules. But I love to let them, express their talent. I'm not the coach that decides to, in every offense, who is gonna make the decision of who is gonna score, who is gonna take the shot. I don't want to be like that, because I really believe that developing this through the season, you can get finally big results.
Yeah.
Because this is my philosophy. This is how, and it wasn't from the beginning. This is how, my theory is this. When the players are playing sometimes with their instinct and learning how to play together, finally the level of this team, the limit of this team is really higher.
If you were 24 again and you were healthy playing basketball, would you want to play for yourself?
It depends. It's always about the human chemistry. It's with some people you can be really friendly, really supportive. With some other, no. It's not only from me to the players, but from some players to me. It's kind of chemistry that you cannot be friend with everybody. You cannot work with everybody. I was unfair to some players, and some players were unfair to me. But that's life.
I think that's an interesting perspective, because a lot of coaches just think it's a one-way relationship when it's really not. It's a two-way relationship regardless. Each person has to respect the other person, and I think when a player feels respected, you'll have more respect also. But you also, as a coach, you have to be the boss. You can't. There's a fine line of respect and friendship.
So basketball changes. 20 years ago, the basketball coach had to be a dictator.
Exactly.
Now this is not like this. I can say that basketball goes, especially to the States, to the United States, goes to the other way. Where the players are the bosses. The franchise players are the bosses, and of course I don't like that. But this is the new era in basketball. Right now, this is a players' league. Even EuroLeague started to be like this.
What do you think, in your opinion, changed that so-called dictatorship that it was back, when I played, and you played for coaches, that it was your way, it was my way and no way, and
society,
and the players didn't have much of a say in things. What changed over the years? Was it did the coaches soften up, or did the players become more powerful?
The second one, first of all. They are earning a lot of money. Sometimes, for example, in the United States, the money that the franchise players are earning are really more than the coaches, first of all. Second is that the fans basically love the players, not the coaches. Except if we are talking about the NCAA. I don't know, that players are leaving, but the coaches are always there. But the society is changing. It's the world is changing. So I don't believe that it's a good period for dictators. Of course, democracy in basketball always is a question mark. Who is the guy who finally decides? But I can say that I agree with this. Must be a league for the player, a players' league, not a coaches' league. Even that in Europe, the influence of the coaches sometimes more than in the States.
Right. Yeah. In Lokomotiv, you beat Barcelona to get into the Final Four. And then, of course, this is so typical for me, with big teams like Panionios, Olympiacos, Real Madrid. When that happens, they want to sign you right away. That's what Barcelona did.
Yes, to be honest, after the season of Lokomotiv, I had a lot of offers from the highest level. Right. So I decided to go to Barcelona, although that finally it wasn't a good decision, not because of the great club and the fantastic opportunity, but because of the timing. It was a really difficult timing for the club, and without, in my position to choose the players, to choose the roster. We had a lot of players with contracts from the previous seasons, but a lot of things. Barcelona in this period, in a traditional situation, Real Madrid was really strong with domestic players in their, best momentum, and it was a difficult process for me.
Would you say? I mean, I think I know the answer to this question. Was this the most difficult season of your career?
Definitely, it's 100%.
And how did you handle that mentally, emotionally? I mean, because you were blamed a lot for something, like you said, that was already there. I mean, you stepped into it, and on top of it, while you were there, injuries started to mountain up, and you didn't have the team that you were actually even given to. So do you justify that somewhere in your mind, or do you feel like you did something wrong? I mean, because you don't get as far as you've gotten in life without looking in the mirror and blaming yourself and trying to be better.
Of course, it was both. First of all, I was blaming myself. Because wherever you feel the whole disappointment of the fans, you think that you are responsible. And Barcelona is a fantastic club. It's a great club. I don't regret that I took this opportunity, although that finally the result was really bad. But to be honest, we had a lot of injuries. From the first day I went, everything happened against us. And of course, we had a team with a lot of veterans, and it was the new format of EuroLeague was really tough. For example, playing with a lot of veterans in Friday in Kazan and playing Sunday morning in Bilbao or in Gran Canaria, for them was really difficult to adjust, to play 2-3 games in a row. That's why we have a lot of injuries. And of course, maybe the players that they couldn't fit to my system. I tried to play their basketball, but finally it wasn't a good combination, But it wasn't just part of me, because the next season from when I left, it was the same. Barcelona failed again.
Right, exactly. And that was my next question. Is the next season was pretty much the same for Barcelona, because they went to about 3 years after you just happened to be, I think, like the first one to show up in that moment. Because Madrid and Barcelona are like Olympiacos and Panionios. They're cycles. For 5 years, one team's here, another team's here. For another 5 years, and you unfortunately were in the beginning of it. But the next year, you go to Kimki and you guide this team to a playoff spot in the EuroLeague, and you almost get to the Final Four.
Yes, it was a good response for me. I felt really good, because I cannot say that I was starting doubting about myself, but I felt really bad because I left the club. I wanted so much to continue. And when I had the opportunity with Kimki the next year, we qualified in the playoffs for the first time in their history, and we was for one game ready to go to the Final Four, and Barcelona was out of the playoffs. So it was kind of, I cannot say feeling great about Barca, but I was feeling good for me.
You felt somewhat justified or vindicated.
Kind of, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. No matter how humble we try to be, there's always that competitive spirit in our body that's like, it was good to see them do bad, and it's good for me to see me do
I have
good.
to admit it, although that I have great feelings about Barcelona, I have a lot of friends there. My family, we stayed there for 4 or 5 years. After that, we will, all together we stayed in Barcelona. And I have great feelings about the city, about the club. But it's okay. It's a human, reaction. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned, the first thing you mentioned when you went to Russia the first time was the weather, because it was down south. It was a little bit better than Moscow. But then in Kimki, coming from Greece, how's that?
It's really difficult, but I can say wherever you feel happy in your job, everything else comes second, If you are miserable, if you feel sad in your job, because our job right now, it's 10 months process without day offs, as you know, a lot of games, a lot of trips. So the most important thing is to feel good in your job, to have good relationship with the players, with the front office, with your colleagues, with your, coaching staff, with the fans. Wherever this happens, you can avoid a little bit being miserable about the weather, about the snow, or things like this. Of course, it's not easy for a Mediterranean, for a guy who is Greek, to live in Moscow and to, you know, a sunny day. It was once in 6 months. You know, it's really difficult. But it is what it is. You know.
It's difficult. I'm a upstate New York guy, so for me it's normal. But the difference is, like, if you're born and raised in Greece with the beautiful weather, you never want to go there. And if you're born and raised where I was born, you never want to go back to it either.
I didn't know that.
That's a tough one. So after this time, now you're sitting here talking to me with the hoodie on, the sweatshirt, Olympiacos basketball, and you're back. You came back in a really, really difficult situation. We'll go back to the Barcelona thing where we talked about the ups and the downs, and Olympiacos was going through some very difficult times, tumultuous times, to say it correctly. And you show up being the third head coach in the same season.
Yeah, to be honest, Joe, it wasn't the decision that I wanted to take. You know, I was in vacations in Greece, coming from Barcelona, and when the owners of the club invited me for to talk about this opportunity, and I was really negative. I didn't want to come back again.
Is it because of what happened before, or is it because of the situation?
Because of a combination of a lot of things. Once working abroad, I appreciated it at that time, and I wanted to continue working abroad. Second, because I left with Olympiacos with this way. And third, because Olympiacos was in a really difficult situation, you know, transitional situation. To become again a winning team, you had to do a lot of things, you know. Right. And in the first conversation that I had with the owners, I was negative. You know, I said no. I said, let's talk again in the summer, during the summer. But they had to take a decision early. And we had a second, conversation. And to be honest, I took the professional decision to come back, not an emotional decision to come back. Because I heard things from the owners that I wanted to hear, you know.
Right. And you come into a team that is gone through so much the 2 years before that, and going through this year with the change of coaches. And also, I mean, unfortunately in this sport, the players age and they get older, and you grab a team that's I don't want to say old, but you know, they're more on their way down than they are on their way up. And did you take that into consideration too? Because you have to start thinking also, not only do I have to coach this team, I have to rebuild also. And it's going to be difficult to rebuild with guys like Spanoulis and Princesses, because those are they're gods.
Yes, they are legends.
How do you move on from that?
That's why I was so skeptical to come back again, because those guys are legends in Greek basketball, and of course in Olympiacos basketball. You know, the fans are loving them, and because they achieve a lot of things with the club the last 10 years. And it wasn't a good momentum because they are close to close their career, you know, close to finish their career. So it is a transitional period, and it's a rebuilding of this team. Probably the owners decided that I was the guy that I am able to do this. It wasn't easy, you know. It wasn't easy to convince anybody about, what is realistic and what is not. Right. But okay, I did it. I decided to take this job and to do it. And of course, I have the support of the club. I mean, about the owners. And suddenly the fans also are very supportive. Probably because of the basketball we play. I think we play good basketball. We are moving forward. We are making steps to the right direction. Do we have a problem again? No.
Not with me, no. Not with me, no.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't me.
Okay. So we continue, eh?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So it's not an easy process, you know. Spanoulis already stopped playing, but retired. Georgios Bartzokas is in the age of 37. EuroLeague is very competitive right now. A lot of games, a lot of physicality. sometimes the motivation goes down a little bit, because if you play 20 years in the league, I can understand how those players are thinking. It's really difficult for them, and I'm really fan of them. How they did it. But it's really tough for the veterans right now. EuroLeague is a tough league. You need to be fresh. You need to be always energetic. You need to have energy every 2 days to play in the highest level with the speed that basketball has right now. It's not easy.
Yeah, I always look at it, and in a good way or a bad way, I compare it to when I was a player and what happened back in my days, and I always think to myself, I'm like, man, it's nice now that you see teams like Barcelona with Juan Carlos, and teams like Olympiacos with Georgios and with Vasilis, and Madrid with Yui and Felipe Reyes. It's a beautiful thing as a player to have that support of your club. That, like, when I played back in the day, the minute you stopped producing, you were gone.
You felt that,
and
you felt that matter. Because you were a foreigner probably in your teams.
Maybe, but even back then, you didn't see that dedication, at least in Spain, to the player. It was like, and maybe the player wasn't loyal either. Maybe the player wanted to move on, like you said, and make more money somewhere else.
I think it's the special connection with a guy from who is the same nationality with you. Juan Carlos is a Catalan.
Yeah.
Yul and are from Madrid, and Reyes and Spanoulis are from Greece. So the fans are having a special connection with them. It's difficult to have.
But there comes a moment on the professional side as a club, you have to say, okay, we're still here to win championships.
This is the difficult part of my job now, and also from the big clubs. The players have to decide when they have to retire.
We never know when to retire. We always think
that we can play more.
When it was my last year, and all of a sudden I'd go out and score 20 points, the first thing in my head is I could do this for 3 more years, and there's no way.
Correct.
I always said it was, of course, Spanoulis is my favorite player of all time in Europe. I think he's the greatest player to ever play in Europe. But when you saw him like a couple of years ago before retirement come out and score 20 points, I'm like, man, that's the worst thing for the team, because he might not be able to do that for the next 2 nights now.
Yes, it's difficult. EuroLeague, the new format of EuroLeague didn't help those guys, those players.
Yeah.
Because if you are
difficult, it makes it more difficult.
And also, I believe that it's difficult right now to base on one player. Even if this guy is legendary, he's a fantastic player. Right now, how many games this player can compete in the highest level, can play fantastic, 8 times per year. It's not easy. Yeah. So probably you need to base on your team basketball if you want to have better record,
I like what you're doing with the team now. We could sit here and talk about the fact that right now you're sitting in 4th place and you're having a possibility of getting a home court advantage. I know you probably look at a few games that you've lost that I've been following you guys, and you're like, man, if we would have just 2 or 3 games that we really could have won would have put us in a better position. But I think what you said earlier is the most important thing. You went to Olympiacos the first time and you won a championship right away. And now you're going the other way. Now you're slowly building up. Which is better? Which is easier? Which is more fun? Which is better as a coach? Which one? Everybody wants to win a championship right away, but then who knows what happens after?
I don't know really, Joe. I think you need to work for the day, for the next practice, for the next game, and you need to enjoy what you do, and also. Always you need to be motivated to be better in your job, to make your team play better. I can think that both things are very interesting, keeping a champions team in the same, to win the league again, or to rebuild the team with the reputation that Olympiacos has in European basketball is not easy. And of course, it's not only my responsibility. Always I'm believing in the team effort. You know, I have the support of the owners. I have the support of the front office, of everybody. The organization Olympiacos is really great. People around ready to help in everything, in any direction. And also positive players, which is very important. You know, always you need that. And of course, we had conflicts every day, you know, with the players. The players are having big ego always.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to make them believe in something, you know. Sometimes you need to be aggressive on them. You have conflicts, you have arguments, but you still have to be in the same page finally, you know. It's never easy, you know. Both processes, both situations are difficult, you know, but in that time, I really enjoy that, you know. First of all, what the club, the owners asked for me is to be in the top 8 again, you know, and to be in the playoff spot again. Mm-hmm. So this is what they asked me. They didn't ask me in my job this year just to go to the final, and because the previous time I had bonus only for EuroLeague title, not even in the Final Four.
Right.
And now I had bonus for the top 8. So
you're telling me you got one bonus and you're pretty close to another one. So when I come to Athens, you can take me out to dinner.
Wherever you come in Greece, we have great, you know, food here and fantastic places close to the sea.
Of course,
it's going to be my pleasure. But I have one bonus already, yes. And but of course, basketball is not a bonus. You know, bonuses come second. You know, first always is the motivation, the desire to win. You know, and we have 3 games in front of us. The first one is really difficult. All are difficult, but let's see finally what when the post season finishes, in which position we're going to finish.
All right, my last question to you now before we finish and we do the test real quick, our famous EuroLeague test. My last question is, let's say you take this team now and you build them up and you do everything you're supposed to do. Maybe playoffs this year, maybe you go to the Final Four this year, maybe next year to a final, whatever. And then does a coach always live with the understanding that maybe in like 6 months or a year from now or 2 years from now, this could all go back downhill again? And I mean, I know you can't live that way day to day, but you have to always be aware of the fact that this can go south at any time. What's that like to deal with on a daily, monthly, yearly basis?
I don't have the answer. I'm sorry, Joe, about that, but
you've been through all of it. You've done it all.
I think yes. I still don't know. I don't have any advice to give to anybody. I think that you need to live the day. You know, just you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I had great teams in the past that they had a lot of injuries, for example. I never know when my job is going to finish. You know, not even in Olympiacos generally. You know, it's maybe finishing Olympiacos. I cannot have I could not have any offer again. Right. So you need to be ready for everything. You know, especially in our life, in sports life. You know, it's not easy. Nothing is easy. That's why I say I live my life here. I'm happy to be here, and let's try to do our best, me and the club. And finally, this summer to see what we did.
Well, I could personally say as a fan, it's nice to see you guys back up there.
Thank you very much.
You know, just the name, and I know Panionios is having a difficult year, but it's always nice to see the 2 Greek teams up there.
Honestly, I am the worst person in the world. You know, I'm sure that I'm not going to find any answer. You know, in the questions.
All right, Coach, here we go. You ready? You've already warned me that you're not good at these things, and I'm not good at them either. But so I hate to do them, but this is a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun with coaches and with players. Right now, I have 5 questions. Each one is worth a different amount of points. Number 1 is worth 10 points. Number 2 is worth 20, 3 30, 4 45.
Finally, I will have 0 points. Believe me.
No. I think there's definitely a couple of them you're gonna get. And I really think you're going to be able to get the 50-point one, but you might be able to beat. We have Nicola Melli, and Gerson Yabusele are tied with 100 points this year. And Kevin Punter also. Kevin Punter is with 100 points. He was a EuroCup guy, so we're questioning that one. But the first question, and they go easy to harder, but I think you're gonna be fine. Who's the current president of LDLC Asvel?
Now, Parker.
Yes. Yes, exactly. But you didn't say Tony Parker, but I'll give you the answer. Tony Parker. We'll give you that one because it was worth 10 points. So you got 10. So see, you're doing good. You feel comfortable.
It's for a kindergarten.
But question number 2. Who is leading the EuroLeague this season in 3-point shots made?
Okay, can I have a few seconds to think? Point shots made, eh?
Yeah, of course.
We put out the Russian teams.
Yes.
Okay. Maccabi.
Not, but the player.
Who's
the
player?
Team, the player.
Maybe Wilbekin.
Yes. You got it, my man.
Okay.
That's 20 points for you.
I wasn't sure.
That's very good. You're up to 30. See, and I didn't think you were going to get that one. That's good. I like that. All right, question number 3 could be another easy one for you. In which teams has Sasha Vezenkov professionally played for? Which 3 teams?
Okay, Olympiacos, Barcelona, and Aris.
There you go, 30
in
points,
Barcelona,
man.
Olympiacos, I was his coach. It's because easy, just find one more.
Look, you're up to 60 already. Now you go for the tie right here for 100 points. Which 3 players from your team played the most minutes in the 2013 championship game?
You mean the final?
The 2013 championship game. Which 3 players played the most minutes?
Spanoulis.
1 for 1.
Papanikolaou and Heinz. No? AC Low maybe.
Man.
Yeah.
You missed it by AC Law. All right, but since you have 60 points, and this next question is worth 50, you can take the overall EuroLeague lead in this test if you get this last one. And this all goes. This one's gonna be really interesting. How many times have you played against a team coached by Sardas Jasikevičius, and how many of them have you won?
Give me some seconds to think. In Zalgiris, in EuroLeague level, in Zalgiris, I was in Khimki. I think we won twice. I think I have positive record, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't remember the games. How many? I'm sorry. Can you help me? Tell me.
Yeah, you have to at least guess.
Let's say 6 games, 6 games, and we won 3 or 4. Let's say 3. We have 3-3 in 6 games.
You guys played each other 9 times, and you're leading 5 games to 4.
We still have one game, the last one in the postseason.
Coach, I want to thank you so much for taking this time out. I know, like you said, it's been a difficult schedule, difficult year, and every time.
You are very good in the conversation. You helped me a lot.
every time I get to sit down with you guys, I know it's number one, it's an honor for me and a pleasure for me, but I know how much this hour and some change takes out of your day and everything you got going on. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate it.